Hey, welcome back to the GMT streams, NFTs and Crumpets. I'm the Tokenomist, and this is my first actual live stream. Normally I do these as pre-recorded. It's like the second time I've done them. Usually I do other videos, but I thought I'd give the streaming process a bit of a try because it's a bit easier to get more timely content out there. If this is the first time you watch me, my background is former stockbroker, former investment manager. I worked for many years in helping startup companies collect funds, promote their investor relations or improve their marketing communication, essentially help people picture their business or present their business in a way that helps them find investors and helps them get money. And I kind of bring that approach into what I do here. What I found was based over in the UK, there isn't an awful lot of morning GMT style streams where I can actually go, hey, do you know what, I want to pick up some current news and what happened overnight. So I thought, well, I might as well just do it myself anyway and get me into the habit. So how is the markets looking in the UK right now? Well, FTSE opened up about 20 points, whereas the Wall Street, sort of Dow Jones, Nasdaq, S&P all came down. Overnight Japanese markets also came down, which generally, and you need to understand these things to get a broader picture of how the crypto markets look. I did a video yesterday and I said about how people go, oh, when's my cryptocurrency going to decouple from Bitcoin? And it's not so much that it's attached to Bitcoin, it's attached to the wider macro market. Bitcoin tends to have a lot more institutional funds in it, so we see Bitcoin move based on what happens in the broader macro market. When I say macro, I mean look at the Evergrande situation in China. They're due to pay off some money. They're struggling to actually liquidate some of their units. So Evergrande, big real estate investment fund over in China. Chinese people are encouraged to invest in real estate as a form of asset. So there's an awful lot of people who own real estate in China, and it's struggling. 300 billion in the hole. The hope is that the Chinese government will bail them out, print money to do so. The alternative isn't probably very good for their economy, won't do them in much standing. That being said, China's a massive economy. 300 billion isn't really as big as it used to be in the whole scheme of things, but still it's going to have a big impact. Certainly have political contagion as well. Now, when you're a company like Evergrande who is trying to create some liquidity to pay back creditors, people who you owe money to, they've got all of these different business assets within their network. And if you're someone who is a vulture or a private equity buyer, you'll look at this and go, I'm not going to buy this unit of yours you're trying to sell just yet, because I reckon you're going to be in even more shit in about a month's time, and I'll buy it then from the administrators or the liquidators. So that's where you get there when you've got kind of mid-range quality assets and there isn't such a big demand to buy it, or you're so big that there aren't many buyers out there. My cat's meowing in the background. I knew this would happen. I'm going to have to just dump her out the kitchen in a second. All right, apologies for this. This is how my streams go. So basically, let's just finish this bit here. So if you are someone like Evergrande, who are very, very big, there aren't many people who can buy certain component units within your business. And those that can could be international buyers, and they'll sit there and go, I think you're going to need more money, you're going to be more desperate soon, and I'll wait to the very, very moment you're desperate so I get the best deal, and you're going to get the worst deal, but I don't care. That's what's happening there, I suspect, which is making it hard for them to create liquidity. So that's still there in the background. It doesn't change the situation with Bitcoin, for example. So we look at Bitcoin and we go, okay, Bitcoin is potentially a hedge against inflation, certainly a hedge against money printing. What are China going to need to do to get Evergrande out the hole and stop the entire country being angry? It's print money. If you print money, you inflate you inflate the money, you reduce the value of it for every yuan, which means you have inflation, and then you have the need for a hedge against that, and that's where Bitcoin comes in. Where China have then at the same time tried to bring the millionth ban on Bitcoin or Bitcoin variants of things to do with crypto in general. We're seeing a far lower level of liquidations of Bitcoin from wallets in those markets or in those exchanges attached to those markets, and that's probably because people think, well, you know what, if I'm being forced to get rid of it and all the other problems that are going on, I'm just going to keep it in a cold wallet for a long time. I don't know. So that's just one angle. Anyway, that's what's going on in the market. Why is the FTSE up then and everything else is down? Well, the FTSE is full of old school businesses. It's full of TradFi, it's full of miners, it's full of oil companies, and we're seeing more supply chain concerns, and we're seeing the price of commodities skyrocketing. So it's actually helping those stocks on that FTSE 100. Perhaps a better bellwether if you're in the UK and you're interested to look at things that give you an indication of where the market might move. Look at the FTSE 250, look at the FTSE All Share. Why? Because those companies are the smaller, the mid-cap companies, and they're a better reflection of the broader UK economy. FTSE 100 has a lot of international companies. We don't have a lot of tech companies, and so with the Nasdaq goes down, the FTSE perhaps doesn't go down, so you don't see that so much if you've been used to looking at US stocks and you're based in the UK. The Nasdaq last night got hit pretty hard again. When you get a kind of a risk-off strategy, risk-off view, because there's things going on in the world that make the fears of inflation happen, then that will erode the value of a long-term revenue from those companies. So you see things like the Nasdaq stocks who are on very fat multiples of sort of 100, 200, 300. If they're valued at 200, 300 times earnings, and you can imagine reducing a percentage of that earning value each year over the long term has a big impact on the value, and so that's why you see those fall, because they're overvalued in that respect. They're valued on future earnings, and future earnings are hurt by what the value of a dollar or a pound is worth in the future, if that makes sense. I don't know if it does. I probably need a lot more time than that just to explain it. Anyway, what we saw overnight, we saw a few commentators on things like Twitter talking about how Bitcoin's gone up when the markets have gone down. I've seen very recently, in the last sort of 6 months or so, Bitcoin tends to come down when the markets go down. This is the first time we've actually seen it where Bitcoin continues to go up. The broader crypto market seems to be pretty flat. Bitcoin's going up. Maybe this is Bitcoin's time for a run. Who knows? Again, when you're looking at your own, if you're looking at exchange wallet like Binance, it will say, oh, my crypto's down, but the crypto's down from a set period of time, a rather arbitrary time, in fact, of midnight, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's down, or the last couple of hours it could have run up. Anyway, that's what's been going on. In the what else has been happening in the wider crypto market? Brazil are one of the BRIC economies. A BRIC economy, if you're not familiar with that phrase, Brazil, Russia, India, China, four of the big emerging economies of the world. The phrase was kind of coined about 20 years ago now, 20 years plus, and it kind of run out. I used to call these things less developing countries, more developing countries, more developing economies, and they kept coming with different names, but then they kind of stuck with four names it was coined by economists, I'm sure, on Brazil, Russia, India, China, four big economies that see very strong growth, future powerhouses. Brazil being one of them, Brazil being dominant player in South America. Now, there's talk about Brazil making Bitcoin legal tender. That doesn't mean they're going to make it, because I think the Brazilian real is their main currency. They're not going to say they're going to get rid of the real. They're going to allow Bitcoin to be traded as a legal tender, and that allows them to then bring in some regulations in the domestic market to protect investors, probably to protect tax evasion and things like that as well. So I'm just having my coffee. So, oh God, I just spilt it. Amazing. It's a very pony cup. It's alright, it's not bad. Ran out of coffee this morning, it's terrible. Anyway, so they want to be able to bring some regulation on it, but that's fine, don't be scared of regulation. Can they regulate Bitcoin globally? No, I think they're going to struggle. Was it China banned Facebook once? They tried to ban Bitcoin a gazillion times. I don't know how Brazil can do any better, but they're showing a fairly positive view on it. Now, the interesting thing about Brazil is, being one of the BRIC economies, they have a disproportionate impact on the market more broadly. They are one of the last dominoes you'd expect to fall in South America. You'd probably think Panama and Guatemalas and Venezuelas and Costa Rica. You get all these kind of Central American, Southern American countries go first, the smaller ones, and then something like Brazil, and then boom, then maybe India does it, or wherever. And it's levels. Brazil go, then South America goes. And now you've got Bitcoin being a dominant coin in South America, and that's huge adoption. Anyway, that's that. So Bitcoin's about just under 50k. Everyone's really bullish again. Still quite a way off from its all-time highs, but it's cool, great, good stuff. People are making some money, and it's positive in the market again, and it brings some more people back. Before I go into the NFT part of this, I'm going to just get my cat out of the kitchen, because it's really annoying. Home YouTubes, amazing. He's going to start scratching on the door. So I'm trying to get the cat and bring up the camera. Anyway, so that's that. That's what's happening with Bitcoin overnight. That's what's happening with the economy. That's why Bitcoin's possibly up when everything else is a bit down. The futures seem a bit weak as well. I think it's partly because the Asian markets, you kind of have this kind of ebb and flow. And if you see the Asian markets then kind of recover, as the Nikkei and the Hang Seng, or the Hang Seng was halted, so that's probably why you've got that. Then if you see them recover, then you'll see perhaps the Dow futures start to pick up, and so on and so forth. But we're still seeing a bit of a tepid time. It's not a great time. And I look at this, and my background's equities. I look at things off with the historic PE ratios of indexes. If I want to put my long-term money, my kind of savings, dollar cost, pound cost averaging into these things, S&P 500 is at one of these sharp spikes of average historic PE ratio. Now, there is a lot more tech companies in the S&P 500, which is going to cause that. But every time it spikes up sharp, it generally then comes down with a crash. And in order for that to correct right now, it needs to fall down by half, or earnings of companies need to double. And I don't know which one of those it's going to be. So I'm kind of cautious about putting money into things like the S&P 500 index funds. I think FTSE 100 is interesting. We're seeing a lot of takeover offers made for British companies. Morrison's was involved in an auction for their shares. I think it's because if you're an international buyer and you're looking for value and looking for growth and looking for a fairly blue chip market, Britain proposes a potential attractive opportunity. I know it's not without its problems, but I think most of these things will, in the long term, will get ironed out and it will be cheap. There you go, that's that. So what's been going on in the NFT market overnight? Well, we've seen Winter Bears. I mentioned them yesterday. Winter Bears dropped their roadmap. Now, I am a Winter Bears holder, so I'm just going to say that now, but I'm also not someone that will be a yes person. I will also say my opinion on something, and I hope a community that I'm in accepts that. And this is my opportunity to actually say what I'm going to say about the roadmap. I'm very positive long term about Winter Bears, but I do want to just discuss. Roadmaps are essentially a business plan or a pitch deck or whatever you want to call them in your different market. They propose what the project is planning to do. Now, I think generally it would be a good idea for more projects to bring them out first. I'm surprised they didn't bring them out. I was caught out with Lucky Sloths. I didn't realise Lucky Sloths when I actually got involved in it. I did it because it was woman-led. It was lack of. I did no research on that one. I talk a good game, but I'm guilty as the next person at making FOMO moves. The Lucky Sloths caught me out, and it was a poor roadmap, and I said it was unambitious, and I got vilified in the Discord group. And I thought, you know what, I don't want to be part of this Discord if they can't accept constructive criticism. I'm not someone who FUD. It's FUD. No, it's constructive criticism. Could you imagine if Cristiano Ronaldo, when he was trying to learn to do free kicks or head, he's a very good header of the ball for a winger. If he was trying to do that, and they said you're not very good, but try doing this, and you went, that's FUD. It's like, no, it's constructive criticism because they want him to get better. And if I put my hard-earned money into something, I want to know, and it's a community, and it's a decentralized, inspired community. I would like to think that they can take on board criticism, and they couldn't. And I then just sold mine. I thought, do you know what? I don't want to be part of this. I sold it, and someone said, it's buy the rumor, sell the news. Fuck off, mate. It's a NFT that's had about $1 million traded through it ever. It's not buy the rumors. There's no institutional whales sitting there pulling strings here. It's just a bunch of people who've just gone, who like me, who have a different view than you do, and go, that's unambitious. I don't want to be part of this. I think that's going to be received badly, and it did, and it's now at 0.03. And after being called FUD, about a day later, there's been a falling out with the founder as well. So, whatever. Where am I going with this? Right, Winter Bears dropped the roadmap last night, and I'll tell you why So first of all, I think it's really, so roadmaps are kind of a plan of where you want to go, and they say where you're going to go in the near term and where you want to go in the long term. They should do, and when you put out a communication to investors, and let's be brutally honest, as much as you might say in any NFT project, we've got these altruistic aims. We want to save the rainforest, we want to save the fish, we want to save the monkeys, we want to save the apes, we want to save the bears, whatever it is. You might have these altruistic reasons, but let's be brutally honest, 90% of us, plus probably 99% of us, want to make some peas. And we understand that capital incentives can also have a positive effect. Now, a lot of people don't believe that, and that's a different political theory, and they're probably not going to be buying NFTs and speculating on these things. But those who understand, the mechanics of how a market works, probably appreciate that sometimes if you were a charity and you recruited the very best fundraiser, it might cost you more money, but you may raise more funds. If you bought, and it's one of the problems that charities have, is that they feel hands tied behind their back to recruit an exceptional speaker, leader, fundraiser, the very best captain of industry, and pay them top dollar and benefit from that network they have, because they don't want to go, oh, we're paying our CEO a couple of $1 million a year. Well, if he's a charity, why is he doing that? Well, because he's also could go and work for a private company and help them grow as well. But do you want to raise money or not? There's a cost, there's a value, and we can all debate that thing, but that's just one aspect of a market. So we understand that many people are in this game for financial gain, but we also want to do something, a lot of us, that's good. We want to have a good return. So that's good. So that's kind of where you might have a roadmap then that says we want to grow the value of the secondary market. We want to achieve royalties by growing the value of holding the tokens or the NFTs, and at the same time, therefore, raising more revenue that we can put into a wallet that we can do X, Y, and Z at X percentage. Now, there is different degrees of how we can get into that. We can be super clear, and I think this is very important when you're making investor communications and you're talking about something that involves their investment. Ambiguity generally isn't very effective. My background is after working in stocks, I now work in e-commerce. I consult companies that are trying to grow their business, and so I understand what makes consumers tick, and it's kind of why I moved into e-commerce, because I understand what makes consumers tick from an investor perspective. If I can get 100,000 out of them to invest in a project, I can probably get them to spend £20. But it has the same mechanics, and it can be just as difficult sometimes to get money from 100 grand or to £20. So you have to understand what makes people tick and what people are looking for, and not everyone looks for the same thing. This is very important, and you often see this when you see people critique roadmaps. And we had a pretty good response and a discussion on this on the Winter Bears thing last night, where we were talking about some people value one aspect, other people don't. Other people don't see the value for that, and that's fine. Different opinions. We all want to get to the same endpoint, but we have perhaps a different way of getting there. Or some care about things more than others. If you come from a Bitcoin background, you probably believe in decentralization, DAO, don't trust, verify. Those things are very important. If you come from a gaming, art, fun, a fun background, because we're doing Bitcoin aren't fun. We're just maximalists. I'm not a maximalist. Although what is a maximalist? If you come from a different background, you may not value the decentralized as much, and that makes sense, because if you're playing computer games and you want to put computer games on the blockchain, and you want to spend money in the metaverse and use that saber of power in your FIFA game as well, you don't care about if it's put on the blockchain layer 1 and it's got finality. You just want to know, I have got it, I own it, it's mine. So there's different things. So people have different reasons. Now, so Winter Bears dropped their roadmap. I'm going to bring it up on the screen. Let's bring it up. Full browser. Let's find the actual. Screen sharing. Let's find it. Set the full browser up. Okie dokie. Bear with me, so I'm just trying to find it on the actual screen. Here we go. Right, let's get back to this. Let's bring it across. Right, so here is his Winter Bears. As you can see, the floor price right now of Winter Bears is 0.66. Now that one is as high as 1.2. It took a hit, took a real hit. Actually went a little bit lower. I think it's about 0.6, and we did see some of the people who had blue ticks, some of the verified people selling off their bears, but by and large, the vast majority are still heavily involved. The big whales. They're not going to move for something like this. So what was the roadmap? Well, let's bring it up. So they published it out on Medium last night, about 12 hours ago, and they just talk about what they've done in the last week, and that's great. They're saying. They've got 4,300 unique holders, nearly 50% holdership. There's still a lot though who've got pretty much all of them from mint. A lot of Discord members, very active. Definitely, they've got loads of submissions into the creativity contest. Now, and these are the people who wrote this. So let's talk about their plans. So the Winter Bears roadmap. Okay, I'm going to be brutally honest in all this, and I say this from a position of I want to help Winter Bears grow, and I think. Everyone has different views on these things, but I'm just going to give you a perspective of why I perhaps would find some fault with it, and why others might have done, and it may be explained why the price might have dipped in some areas. Others are just panicking. Others might have traded it. I don't propose to say I know everything. I don't. Some people may have traded it, but I know, having spoken to a few investors who are in other Discords who we both hold. I can understand why there is some concern. I know why those ones are. So let's just talk about that, and let's talk about why those things how they can be resolved. So if you've been around Discord, you've heard me talking about our plans for Art Club, using DAO governance infrastructure to platform artists and share royalties. So what they wanted to talk about, one of the things that was interesting about Winter Bears was they wanted to have kind of this decentralized group where we were going to invest in new projects. Maybe make money on them, share the revenue within the organisation. That was certainly that's implied. Look, they don't necessarily share royalties. Okay, well there you go. They're saying it. So they're saying we were going to have a decentralised group where we were going to buy up and coming artwork, maybe helping new artists, share royalties, creating revenue therefore to go towards the charity of the organisation. So pretty cool, right? They share the detailed model with experts. We've come to the realisation there's a better way to more directly reward our community. That's right, the Winter Bears family is going to be growing. So they've gone from something that's kind of innovative, I guess for a lot of people is innovative, and people will be looking for it, and it's certainly a buzzword. Now I, from my perspective, I like the idea of just verified voting. It doesn't necessarily be about the royalties. but there's obviously something to be said for sharing yield. They're going to do free of charge drops to all bear owners. That's fine. I guess the thing is what are those paid drops? So that they're going to be dropping bears into the people's wallets. They won't have to pay gas. It will just land in there, and that's cool if you want that. Some cases the artist is going to be the same artist as the Winter Bears artist. DAO lovers worry not. Winter Bears will continue to be a powerful creative force and continue to be community-led, taking on input, feedback, and providing opportunities. Okay, what I think this is where it's got a lot of people here. So DAO lovers worry not. Will continue to be a community-led, taking on input, feedback, and providing opportunities. I guess the problem with that for some people is that there is no discussion there of how you're going to do that. And I think, it's early days. It's early days. And this is where we talk about avoiding ambiguity. Now, if you were to come into my website and you couldn't find some information that you were looking for, it would create, or you didn't know if it was the right product for you, it would create ambiguity, and there's a chance you may not necessarily buy it. If you were looking to buy a house and I said, I've got a house for you, it's within your budget, do you want to buy it? You'd say, well, no, I want to see it. And why is that? Because there's no information. It's ambiguous as to whether or not that property is right for you. People might go, that's a straw man argument. It's not. It's an easy way to explain it. Ambiguity causes problems. Ambiguity, if you were a punter or a prostitute who's blindfolded you and you like that stuff, that's great. You love ambiguity. Ambiguity, if you got really, really drunk and you slept with someone that in hindsight you probably wouldn't have done, and you don't know what that person looked like. Ambiguity is good. It avoids the guilt, the more guilt that you have that perhaps you've already had. So that's where ambiguity is good. Ambiguity is not good if you go, here's my hard-earned money. Please take care of it by managing the project well and by also meeting the aims and the core values. And where are those core values? And that's something that needs to be looked at as well. So where are the core values? I think every NFT project should be putting their core values on the Discord channels. Here's our core values, this is what we stand for, and this is what our overarching goals are. I did it in my own shop, so we've got a chain of stores. I started one shop, grew to 30 shops, and every shop on the wall, on a clipboard, these wooden clipboards, we had loads of them because it's quite a cheap way of displaying cool stuff. One of them was to have our core values, and by having our core values, it always reminded us what was our underpinning philosophy. And I learned that from Zappos, which is a fantastic customer service-led brand. They did phenomenally well and sold out to Amazon. Tony Shea was an inspirational leader when it comes to anyone who's interested in customer service. Everything about Zappos is a great story. He wrote an autobiography and an audio book called Delivering Happiness, and I just love that. That's their core philosophy. We deliver happiness. And they sell shoes on the internet. And everyone said it was crazy when he started it. Sadly, Tony passed away in a house fire, which is pretty horrific. I sound like Alan Partridge now, but I don't know why I'm smiling. It's terrible, really sad. And he was actually very inspirational person to learn from. So I don't know how I got off on that track. Customer service is very important, clarity is very important, certainty is very important, ambiguity is only good in certain scenarios. When it comes to buying something, certainty is great. We love certainty. I want to know this product can do this if I'm paying X amount. If I'm paying less than X amount, I can be less certain. There's a trade-off in certainty. And again, it goes down to investors. We trade off certainty when we come to make investments. So if we want to have utter certainty that I'm going to get £10 back from the £10 I put in, if I go on utter certainty, then I'm probably going to get a lower return. If I'm prepared to trade off some certainty, I can get a better return potentially. If I'm prepared to trade off more certainty, I can get an even better return. If I'm prepared to trade off all certainty, the reward upside is potentially huge. One would hope, all other things being equal, but the risk is obviously astronomical. I'm just going to turn my laptop power on, it's gone offload. So certainty, clarity, ambiguity, all very important things, and they all play to how people respond to things. So if you are running a roadmap and you're going to say, hey look, DAO lovers fear not, we're still going to listen to your feedback. Well, that's great, but there's a difference between a DAO and listening to someone's feedback. And if you are someone who's writing this and your background isn't in investor relations, isn't in public relations, isn't in messaging and comms, and these are skills, these are very, very fundamental, important skills for big organizations these days. And I don't pretend that they would have these people in place just yet. But if your skill is not in communications like that, then consider maybe running it by some people first. How would I do that differently? I would say, hey, look, DAO lovers fear not. Look, we want to do things slightly different. We find that because I don't really care about the mechanics of how you return investment to me. I don't care about the mechanics. Whether you deliver it in bananas, as I think Coles does or whatever it is, or you deliver it in framed pictures through my door that are really cool, one-of-ones, that's fine. I don't care about that. I want to know there is a build-up of value being done within the project. And I'll come to that about how you can value NFT projects in a little bit. So that's the mechanics of it. I couldn't care less. And if this is the better way to do it with bear drops, kind of cute, that's cool. But I guess what we don't want to have is summer bears, autumn bears, and just a continuation of bears. If, however, it is a cool project, let's just say, for example, I've got Pug Frens at the moment. I think I made a video about this yesterday saying how I ended up buying too many, but I probably will buy more. I just think they're kind of cute. I like the actual thick-lined art. If someone like that had come along and said, look, I need X amount of money to properly market the project, and this is how one way you can do it. So you're the artist behind Pug Frens. I want to launch an NFT. I've got really cool design. I've got some really good ideas of creating great utility behind my Pug Frens NFTs. This is not the project, but this is how I would propose it. You would then approach Winter Bears. Winter Bears would put it to the community using a DAO voting system, and we select in a verifiable way that it's a correct voting and there's no shilling and there's no dodgy backhanders going on there, because again, that's the problem with these things. Any project, it's not a dig at Winter Bears, because I say I'm a holder of Winter Bears. I want Winter Bears to be great. There's a town hall on Friday, and I'm going to be putting these ideas across because we have a very receptive community, and that's why I thought I feel okay to say this, and I like that, and I think we can go places. And sometimes it's best to have a head on at first to iron those things out. But going back to this is. If a project approach, Winter Bears could do a vote in the community. Yes, we want to select this one. You're going to get this much grants, and you can go off and do that. And in return, we're going to get X amount of items. Now, there's 10,000 Winter Bears, and that project would have to do more than 10,000 to make it worth their while. So what do? Well, we can either drop it to us, and then we sell it in the secondary market with a royalty, and it goes back to that artist, and they start to get their return that way. That's one way, and also have a lot of holders. There may be some problems with that. I haven't thought it through. I've just thought about it on the fly. Then the other aspect, I suppose, is to go. We'll fractionalize, or we'll just hold an amount of them. We'll take 1,000. We'll hold them into the community wallet, and then we can either fractionalize them, additional amount. That's one way, using fractional art. That's a way potentially. I don't fully understand the mechanic. I don't care about mechanics. There is someone a lot smarter than me that can deal with that one. I look at it from an investor relations point of view, or we could, I don't know, sell them, and then the money comes out as USDC or whatever, or Bitcoin, or however. I think there are pretty many fundamentally smart ways, or we just roll it and reinvest it, or we vest it, or whatever it is. There are better ways, but there is no clarity on what that's going to be. Now, I don't know when that's going to be, and if this was just a first stage document with more details, it would be great if they just said, look, I understand you might have some concerns about the art DAO not being there per se. We are still going to have a voting system that's verifiable, but we just don't have enough time to write it all here, and we'll get to that. Okay, cool. You've just handled ambiguity, and you've given some clarity, and you've given people a little bit of certainty. That then just fixes that issue, and I would think potentially the floor price wouldn't fall too much. Now, if it stabilizes and goes up, fine, but and I hope I'm really wrong on this all, but I think just it wouldn't hurt to do that. And not everyone responds to the same trust needs as everyone else. If you go to a website, they have About Us pages. Some people don't care about us, and the mistake a lot of business owners get into the habit of is go, oh well, I don't care about an About Us. You don't, but someone else does. So it's always important to look empathetically across the board. Just because you don't get something, just because you don't understand something, you have to ask yourself, could I be wrong? Now, could I be wrong here? Yeah, I could be completely wrong. I could be completely wrong. I could be a complete dickhead. I could be completely wrong. And you have to be open to being wrong. And if you're open to being wrong, you're open to new ideas and new input, and you better understand things. Now, also what a lot of people do is don't read the full details. They panic, they sell. They read it once, they panic, they sell. And very few go back and read through in a fine-tooth comb and spend as much time as I'm doing on this now. So that's the first thing that caused some concern last night, the DAO. And what's been really good about this actually is there's a couple of great mods. JS is one of them in the Discord. For them, you might see him on Twitter talking about Winter Bears. This stuff's getting fed back. Nushi, who's one of the leads, has already talked about that and communicated in kind of an AMA within the Discord. That level of community is really good. It is really positive. It gives me confidence that they do listen, but I think we need to take it beyond that. We need to go, that's great. It's cool that we know we're getting some trust back, but let's just remove the trust issue. Let's just get it completely out of the way. One of the things that I do when I do e-commerce consulting for people is I create a change log. If anyone has ever worked in dev, they do change logs. I know, as someone who's once hired people like this, is you want to know if anyone's actually doing anything, and it's a really awkward question to ask. So I remove that trust issue, and I just create a shared change log, and every time I work on their project, I add in there what I've been doing. I add in screenshots of the code changes, the work changes, anything else I've been doing. It all goes in there, and then they can see that I've been doing it without having to ask the awkward question, and they get that confidence because it matters. So really important. So that's the first thing. So I'm just going to try and bring up the screen sharing to try and get my let's try and fix this. Winter bears. Right, here we go. Okay, so I'm just going to try and make the screen come both, so you can see me in both formats as well. Right, let's go back over to the browser and have a quick look at the roadmap. So that was the first thing, and that caused a lot of people to be bothered. And some people didn't get that, and that's why. Me personally, I don't care about short animation. I know a lot of people do, and they can see a lot more opportunity in that because that's their particular creative field. I get that. That's not seller for me. If that wasn't there, I wouldn't care less. If that wasn't there, it would bother some people. So they're going to be bringing out an animation. It's good timing for winter. They've got a merch store. Now this was, for me, my second point of I think a missed opportunity in a very small detail that may not pick up many people. Sorry, start again. Not everyone will have picked this up. I look for it because I've seen it in other areas and because I come from an e-commerce background. Okay, so they're going to opening a merch store. They want to do high quality merch. That's cool. They want to do some cool stuff. They want to great collectibles, all sorts of bits and bobs. And there's a real opportunity there in creating really cool merch. Number two, merch, and then it finishes. Now, why is that problematic in of itself? If you haven't seen it, it's because they haven't mentioned it. And it's simple as this. How much percentage revenue is going into the wallet? How are we going to vote on what's the right products with the right margins? Because we're going to be a decentralized autonomous organization. Have I just got a picture of a bear, or have I got a 1/10,000th stake in a community, in the creator, in the project? And I think that's where those things misalign sometimes. Again, it's just communication. It's ambiguity, it's lack of clarity, it creates a lack of certainty. And I think, again, you might be a great dev, but you may not be a great comms person. And so I think within a community of 10,000, 4,300 holders, there's definitely people who've done what I've done, probably better, to a much higher standard than I have, which is investor communications and understanding how best to relay a thing. So all of these will create uncertainty, lack of clarity, and some concern. And I think it's just simply a case of, okay, cool, you've made that mistake once, let's not do it again, and let's move on from it. We're going to be doing, in terms of the lack of art DAO, we're not going to perhaps do it in the way that you might have thought it, or you might have thought it. So let's actually understand what people thought by it. And then, I mean, maybe that's not even a good thing, because we tried that with Brexit in the UK and everyone had a different view on what Brexit meant to them. So probably what DAO means to a lot of people is different things, but maybe understanding what people, if you do a quick survey and ask people what you think by art DAO, what you think that would mean, and you can get some broad understanding of where some people perhaps have felt maybe there is lack of clarity. So to fix that would be great. And just understanding how important it is that you can't put square pegs in round holes. When it comes to startups, we have a very propensity to do a lot of different jobs all ourselves at once. Maybe to consider this is understanding that you could probably get someone for a couple of hours a week to give you a hand. I would happily help for free, and I've said that, and I've been invited to ask these questions at the town hall, and I will do that from a balcony in Ibiza with a cold beer. I'm not there now, but I will be there next week. So that's, I think, what caused some consternation. Just a lack of clarity on the merch, on the wallet, who's getting the money, who benefits from it, how do we verify that? Again, if you come from a Bitcoin background, if you come from a decentralized background, if you come from a Monero background, or someone that cares about true decentralization, Cardano as well, then you'll probably care about those things. You don't have to, you may not, but some people do, and that's all it is. And that's all it is we all want to get to a point where we can incentivize, and people say, like, it's not all about the floor price. It is, because it's a good metric to monitor things, I think, to some degree. You need bigger investors. Someone who will buy a bear for 10 ETH, someone who will buy a pug for 10 ETH, someone who will buy a dinosaur for 10 ETH has a different phone book to someone who will buy it for 0.1 ETH. Doesn't mean you're a better person, they've just got a different set of circle, different set of experiences, and perhaps at scaling or spotting higher level opportunities. And I think understanding we need those people on board as well, and also with that comes the higher royalties, which generates more revenue, which enables us to do more charitable work, which keeps the token more attractive, underlying intrinsic value of the wallet, which split 10,000 ways, that kind of one way is one way to look at it, all has a positive effect. So it's capitalized, it's economic incentivization of the network. I look at these tokens not as artwork, I look at them as access tokens. And there's lots of great communities on Discord. What's the distinguishing feature? Would being a art investor and a future whale, that's how that would kind of be cool for me, was if you can make these investments in these projects and maybe one day be a future art whale, like, oh no, Winter Bears have just got involved. That's why not? Why not? The idea that a bear investing would be great. Anyway, charitable work, very important for a lot of people. They made a great fundraising commitment straight away, which is fantastic. That's $40,000. I want to see that more. I want to see more of that, and that will only come from bringing more revenue into the network, and that's their goal, and that's what they want to do, and that's fine. And I've got no issues with that whatsoever. Research centres, fantastic. It'd be great. The idea of an NFT project, Winter Bears, supporting research centres that you could physically go and see as well would be great. But that's great. Number 4, Art Club. They're moving away from their initial vision of the DAO. We're not cancelling our dreams of a community-led, powerful, creative force. On the hunt for artists, look forward to creating. So I think, and that's it. So for that particular aspect, I think what they're missing there is DAO has a different connotation than just art club. Do I want to invest in a arts and crafts club? No, I'm sorry, I don't personally. I care more about the charity aspect. I care more about the capital incentives. I do like the idea of finding new artists, and so that may be a way of where it's been worded wrong. So again, we can ask these questions at the town hall, and I'm pretty confident we'll get an answer, and we can learn from this, and maybe update these, even update this Medium document with to cover and caveat those things. Number 5, future drops. So they talk about they're doing free of charge, and this is great. They're going to do drops. I don't care personally about the mechanics of how you return yield. Ultimately, people have to want the bears, and if people don't want the first bears because the project doesn't have the thing that made it interesting, I'm not saying this is the case, I'm saying just this is a thing to think about. And let's change it for bears. If people don't like your frog thing anymore, and it's fallen down in price and no one's buying it and the market volume has fallen because the ideas have changed, creating new frogs doesn't make them more valuable and useful. Everything has to have an intrinsic value. So Bored Ape Yacht Club, huge volume, huge value, brand value enormous. Having a mutant ape is like a poor man's version of a Bored Ape. It still needs 10, 11 grand for it, but people go into it because they can afford it and they've got that affinity value. So I think again, I don't care about the mechanics of how you return yield, but it just has to be done right, I think, really is all. But the art is great, it's cool, it's cute, and I think it's very early days. I think more projects should bring out the roadmap first before they try and raise money. I think it's a bit crazy to do that because then you have these situations like this. But that's just, I have a few different views, but this is the core thing here is, and we have a situation on social media where people don't have the ability to communicate their ideas without being called FUD or pushed out, and that's not a way to create a cohesive community. You're never going to get better by being blind to faults and negative points. So it's important to get better, and I for one will be there supporting them, and I think it's potentially a great project, very close to getting it right, just need to tighten this up. And again, we're not all experts at everything, and sometimes we'll make mistakes, and we've got to give people who run these projects that opportunity too as well. I think if you put big money into it, you might say, well, I don't need to take that risk. That's fine, but that's the risk you take with NFT projects as well. So communicate, engage, don't snipe, don't hate people for having different views, providing it's constructive. I hope you've seen this as constructive. This was my opportunity to have a bit of feedback and talk about it. I think Winter Bears ultimately has gone from strength, from nowhere to somewhere. It's become a brand that people have become more aware of now. I think it's great timing, and it's certainly good timing. I think the design and branding is on the money. So I trust them sufficiently in that. I trust them sufficiently in to be open and to understand how to tackle that issue when it comes to the DAO aspect. I'm not talking about me myself. I'm not talking about random free money. That's not it. It's about DAO. It's about community involvement in a way that we verifiably know has a meaningful and trustless impact. So trustless is a great word. So that's Winter Bears. What else has happened? Let's move on. Let's talk about Pug Frens. Pug Frens, something I picked up, which started off about 0.03, 0.02. It's been going up higher. Let's just bring Pug Frens up. Where's the Pug Frens gone? Let's have a look. Pug Frens, they went as high as 0.09 last night. Let's just bring them up here. Here we go. Sort by price low to high. What have we got here? And we're looking about, this is not Pug Frens. What on earth is going on here? Right, let's just jump over to someone who's been commenting on this over the last couple of days, and that is a chap called Jay on Twitter, JOTC. He's been putting out the Nansen details, and Nansen is the, let's just bring it up, I'll just find it now, JOTC. Nansen shows the range of notable buyers and big institutional purchases. Let's have a quick look here. Top 10 sales last 9 hours. We're seeing Pug Frens #1. It's fantastic. For those who got that, humanoids is another one that's been flying up, as well as fly frogs. Fly frogs have been doing well. I know that obviously crypto foxes, the power of ass, tiny paws. Where are we at? Let's try and find this now. I actually had this lined up, but Twitter moves down, so it's very frustrating. Let's have a quick look here. Let's bring him up. Give him the courtesy of recommending him. JOTC. Ah, right. I will find it at some stage. Pug Frens, let's go back. I can't at the moment. I'm not going to bore you watching it, so I will try and find that in a bit. Oh, here it is. JOTC. Here we go. So JOTC has completely gone. Here we go. He's been putting out Pug Frens information. He's been going hard on this, and he uses Nansen. Nansen's a really good tool for identifying notable buyers. Gives you some good information to know if big people or whales or potential whales are getting in, and you can see them marked with the yellow dots. You have to pay to use it. It's not a lot of money, and if you're going to be speculating money into NFTs, I do recommend taking a look at it. And you can see over the last, when he put this post out, this post was put out about 9 hours ago, 9-10 hours ago. A lot of yellow dots coming in towards the end. There are big buyers. Fleur, who is a notable name in the sector. I will say Fleur does have Pug Fren as his avatar. He did say though it is paid advertising, so whether or not that means he likes the project or not is another kettle of fish. I'm sure he doesn't advertise things he hates, but make of that what you will. What else we've seen? Where's NFT? Pudgy Penguin guy actually buys a lot. He may not have a ton of followers, but does actually buy a fair amount. He's got an awful lot of, that's his wallet there on OpenSea, has an awful lot. He was buying Pug Frens last night, so that's going on. Paladin Pandas has been flying up as well. I think again it's the play to earn stuff, and humanoids has been going up as well. I don't have any humanoids. I do think the artwork's fantastic. Let's have a quick look at it. Humanoids, NFTs, they've been going crazy. These guys here, look, pretty cool, and they've been flying. One of those ones where it's a real missed opportunity. So they've been rocketing overnight. So things have been going up. Some things have been wobbling from the roadmap. I actually made some notes. I was going to cover a few more things I wanted to go over. Right. Let's talk about as well. So there is a bit more news as well. With Sappy Seals announced last night, there's going to be a partnership with Lockdown Lemurs or Lazy Lemurs. It's a free drop if you've got, or it's a free. I believe it's a free drop if you are a Sappy Seals holder. The real issue is it's a very, very small community, and I think if anything it's more of a kind of an advertising thing personally to help the lemurs. By all means get it if you want. If you've got bit of spare ETH in your wallet, you want to pay the gas, grab it. But if you've got a Sappy Seals, you are eligible for a lemur. It's in the announcements on the Discord. So there's that. Now one final thing I want to get onto, I think, which is valuation of NFTs, and I kind of touched on this a few times. Is there a way to value NFTs? And I think there possibly is one way you can do it. So Andreeson Horowitz, I'm just going to go back to the full face. So Andreeson Horowitz, who are a big venture capital fund based out in Silicon Valley, made a lot of big investments. They've invested in a lot of big projects, from Coinbase to Internet Computer, and they made a killing on that where no one else did. They have valued Axie Infinity in a either a fundraising or a valuation of $3 billion. So $3 billion US for Axie Infinity. Now, Axie Infinity is a version 1 play-to-earn game. It's built up a big following. It's got some historicity to it now. People talk about what was the first big play-to-earn game. It will always be Axie Infinity. There's that kind of historic value to it. Version 2 is going to kick its ass. We talk about Snake being version 1 of games on phones, and where did phones on games go to? When I first got a computer as a kid, we had a game called Hillsfar. It was a role-play game. Actually, it was kind of cool. It was actually pretty cool for its time. But it was it was version 1, and it's got a place in my mind, Hillsfar, and if there's some Hillsfar merch, I might buy it. It's got a brand value to it. But let's be brutally honest. If anyone's ever played it, it's not Fortnite. Fortnite is worth fortunes. It's a version 2 game, and it's like Snakes and Fortnite, or on a different platforms. So Axie Infinity version 1. What's the value of version 2? And version 2 are things that you've got. Is it Cypher and Galaxy Fight Club? You've got Paladin Pandas, who I mentioned in a stream yesterday. I picked up just because I thought, you know what, it's a bit cheap. I had a bit of spare ETH in my wallet. I actually do quite like the artwork. It is kind of cool. It's better than a lot of others are that are looking at some of the games. I've got Nifty League Degens is another game that's looking at version 2. So how much are these version 2 games going to be, and how much ownership of the game does having an NFT imply? And that's a critical point in this next factor. So let's just say Axie Infinity is worth 3 billion. I think it's fair to say there's an awful lot of games out there that have their own inherent value. Cyberkongs are worth a huge amount of money. They've got the staking factor to them as well. There's the inbuilt yield. There's the fact you can earn money. So, and they're certainly worth north of that figure as well. So let's just say you could have a game NFT project that's worth 3 billion. That's a bit of a stretch, but let's say you can have a game that's worth $3 billion. But to be fair, no, they could be worth more, because I think play to earn is going to be a big explosion in interest. Let's pick Paladin Pandas in this particular example, and it could apply to any of them. Nifty League Degens, it could be, I don't know, say Cypher or any of the other Galaxy Fight Club. They've all got 10,000 tokens or thereabouts. You've got 10,000 tokens, and you divide 3 billion by 10,000 tokens. You end up with a figure of $300,000, that's 100 ETH, there or thereabouts, or 350, whatever the price was to fluctuate at. You get a figure about 100 ETH. If every one of those 10,000 tokens is 1/10,000th access token of control, of creativity, ownership, and shared community of that game, that play-to-earn game, if you've got 1/10,000th, that's no different to having a company that's worth 3 billion that has 10,000 shares, and you've got one of them. And if you've got one of those shares and there's 10,000 shares and the company's worth 3 billion, then one share is worth $300,000. So looking at that in that perspective, that's where we can get some kind of valuations. Or future prediction valuations of total addressable markets and potential based on peers and competition. Now, it's very flimsy, very flimsy. But if you want to look at the potential earnings value or the potential what you could get to, you could look at the number of tokens available in supply, or NFT is going to be available, and you could look at what comparative projects have achieved in terms of valuation. Cyberkongs hit 100 ETH. Are they going to be the last one to do that? No, they're not going to. It's an insane figure to us now, but it may not be insane in the future. When Bored Ape, it's the new one I'm doing. Find out in the subscription. Actually, while we're talking about this, let's just go to here. If you want to sign up, get me on Twitter, follow, subscribe, Real Tokenomist. There you go, leave that up there for a while. Hit the subscribe button. If you've got anything you want to talk about in the comments, I do reply back, because it's pretty easy when you've got no one doing it. So I'm back here again. So there you go. So you can look at the valuations of things based on what has already happened. It's not a perfect model, but it's certainly one way to look at things. Having a look at what the potential can be. And also it then tells you if you've got a fairly overvalued token. If you've got an NFT, there's 100,000 tokens, and each token is already worth 30 ETH. To be fair, it's probably already got spread value, but I think it's just one model you can look at, the potential valuations of projects. And it's why it's really important to look at projects if you want to have something in the down markets as well as the up markets. If you want something that is crypto winter proof, is to have something that makes it crypto winter proof, something that makes it utile. And utile, that's a word, it's a great word. Something that makes it utile, something that gives it a utility that keeps people on the platform, no matter the NFT price. Now, one final point I'll say is I do have some concerns how good is a game going to be if only with Axie Infinity anyone can play it, you just buy your tokens or whatever. If the games such as Paladin Pandas or Nifty League Degens, and say I've got these and people might call them FUD, I don't know and I'm sure they've already worked this out. I hope they have, and I hope they're expressing it. You don't want a game where only 10,000 people can play it because they've got a character. You want to be able to lease out the skin of the character perhaps, and people pay a token to play. I don't know how that would work, but if you want a game to be worth more than 3 billion or anywhere near that, you need to be able to have more than 10,000 people playing that game. So I think that's something that needs to be considered or discussed or presented in things like roadmaps that come before the actual token fundraising, and also don't be afraid if projects do come out in the future where they need to raise more money, because how are they going to raise more money right now? I think that's something as well that people are scared about. Doing preemption right mints. We have in stocks. If you've got a stock that you buy, this must be really cold by now. If you have a quick one as well, let's just cover this actually. So let's just say you have a business, and its business is, I'll leave this as the final point actually as well. Let's say you have a business that has £10 in the bank account, or $10 in the bank account, and there's 10 shareholders, and they've each got one token. Each token is equivalent to 1/10 of what's in the business, the value of the business. And at this stage, it's just a bank account. There's £10 in the bank account. Each token is worth £1. They've each paid £1 into the bank account. So the net asset value, the underlying final backstop value of that token, realistically is £1, because they've got 1/10 of the company, and the company owns no debt but has £10 of in the bank. If you wanted to raise more money and have £20 in there, you could say to your current investors, hey guys, do you want to chuck an extra pound in there? And they go, well, don't need to, and some will, some won't. So what you do is you dilute the shareholders and you create 10 more tokens. Now some people say, but you've diluted the value of my shareholding. No, I'm going to create 10 new shares and I'm going to sell them for £1 each. So now we've got £20 in the bank account, and you used to have 1/10 in the bank account. You don't have £2, you've got 1/20th, but that still equates to £1. You still have the same underlying net asset value. There's more shareholders, we've now got more money in the business. Now if we invest that £20 into something to create more value, the company should still be worth £20 plus. You perhaps won't have £20 cash in the bank. It will have £20 of IP or £20 of a project or something, or a stock. In theory, your value of your shares shouldn't go down. The price of the share may go down because there are more shares, but the underlying market cap shouldn't change, or it should actually go up if it's done well. It doesn't always work that way, but it can do. Sometimes when businesses, perhaps it's a fast-growing sector, having more money in means the price actually goes above that as well. So that's that as well. So and I think, and we call that a preemption right. Existing shareholders can get perhaps that share for cheaper, or they get first dibs, and if they don't want it, it then goes out to a public market. Preemption right. You're preemptively giving it to your own existing holders, and that could be the same for NFTs. And I think maybe future mints or future things could be done at a point where they can use additional funds to do that. So that's one way of doing it, or allowing you to upgrade your token into a way that makes it more bespoke to how you think it'd be easy for it perhaps to sell it. You know, if you have I've got a crypto dad. You can see on my thumbnail. Let's just bring up my crypto dad. Straight up Tokenomist. He's got his little bow tie. Maybe I want him to have a monocle. Okay. Maybe I want him to have a Bitcoin monocle. And if I wanted to have a Bitcoin monocle, it would make him incredibly rare, incredibly unique. It would suit my style, and it would make him more valuable potentially. Now it's not in the normal set of traits, but I would probably be able to sell it if I wanted to for more money, because a lot of people always look for the Bitcoin or the Ethereum eyes, or all those kind of things, or the Frens or the GM. So that's one way. You can say, hey, we'll let you upgrade your NFT in a way that suits you with custom style. Maybe adds more value to it, more uniqueness to it, and in return you pay an extra mint cost, and that gives us more money in the pot to allow us to develop the project further. And I think that's something that I will talk about to any projects that I'm involved in, as suggestions, as ways to grow more money in the pot, to do more things. And that's really. That's one way you can look at valuations. It doesn't have to just be, this is a JPEG. It's an access token to a community, to a project, and what that project does ultimately relates to how much the value of what your token could be worth in the future. The JPEG is just a nice picture on top of it. This is the Tokenomist. Follow me, subscribe me. That's the GMT stream. I'm going to get on with my day. I'm going to go and hit the gym. Ta-ta!